President Cyril Ramaphosa swore in his new cabinet this morning after making changes to the executive last night, saying they were necessary to improve governance. Let's get the reaction now from the South Africa Communist Party First Deputy Secretary, Solly Mapaila, who joins me now. Mr. Mapaila, good afternoon. Are you pleased with the changes that the President has made?
Good afternoon, Hugo, and good afternoon to our viewers. Yes, we are very pleased with the current changes made by the President. We think these changes are very profound and important to an extent that they mark a new impetus on the developmental and implementation capacity of government to fulfill the hopes that the people have mandated the ANC through its manifesto to lead our country. And therefore, we believe that the most priority task of this team is to focus on the economic interventions so that we are able to turn around our economy and improve the living conditions of the majority in our country.
Now, one of the things that we've seen the new health minister has hit the ground running. Do you have confidence in all the new ministers?
We certainly have confidence in all our comrades in government, and I think that they can prove themselves. It's an impeccable group of individuals. I think what is needed is to make sure that their collective being is driven specifically to the most immediate challenges, and they must be able to tackle those challenges head on and not be afraid to commit mistakes in tackling challenges. And I think that in doing so, we will be with them and support them to make sure that they are able to win the battle. We face a very serious battle in this country of unemployment and poverty in our communities and general inequalities, but largely based on the economic, microeconomic policies that we're pursuing. We hope that collectively as government they will be able to overcome these challenges. But we do have massive confidence in many of them. Majority of them, as you know, have been in the governance system for quite some while, including the one you just mentioned, Dr. Pasla. He has been working quite hard in the health sector, and we wish them all well.
Mr. Mapaila, you talk about impeccable. Now, we just spoke a little while ago about the Minister of Finance, Godongwana, who has been implicated, certainly in the past, around 100 million rand issue. We also talk about Zizi Kodwa, who has his own issues. Impeccable, is that the right term? Is that how you really feel?
Yes, I don't think you should whittle it down to those individuals, excluding the collective number of people that were appointed and their credentials, including those that you have mentioned. For instance, Comrade Zizi, we hope that you'll clear his name through the Zondo Commission. He has appeared there. We'll hear what the consequences and the final rulings are. With regard to Comrade Godongwana, we understand that he has engaged comrades in SACP about what has happened and his involvement in that regard. I think it's something, investment gone wrong. That's an issue that I think at the later stage himself we will clarify this. But as an individual that you know, at the first point when this matter happened, he stepped aside. In fact, was one of those who led the process for stepping aside in order to clear his name. And I think that over the years he should have done that. But like I say, he will clear himself in that regard. With regard to the task at hand in his department, we wish him well. It's one of the most challenging tasks in our country. And he has been able to reach out to all constituencies within the movement and to engage proactively and to be innovative, which is what I think that department requires. And we're looking forward to engaging with him, particularly on these questions of macroeconomic policies, as well as how to align fiscal policies to the current challenges that we face as a country.
You speak about his issues with much confidence, suggesting that there was some consultation as alliance partners. Is this what happened?
Well, certainly the President applied his mind. Yesterday we had a brief discussion to look into his final pronouncement or ideas. But generally it remains his prerogative to choose who to appoint as ministers, because we have mandated him to lead, and collective failures sometimes are difficult to accept. He is responsible ultimately. That is why he consults us, but he takes the final decision.
Mr. Mapaila, there's a lot of reshuffling of ministers and ministries. Would this not have presented the President with an opportunity for fresh blood, new ideas? Would have these been some of the contributions that you would have made in that consultative process that you speak of?
Fresh blood, it's about much more about ideas. The ideas that we have as a movement, majority of them have not been vigorously implemented. And I think he tried to do that. His cabinet, it's a very strong cabinet if you look in all angles, in terms of capacity, in terms of the nature of individuals, the mixture of youth and old, genders, and the geographic spread and so forth. So I think he has a very good collective that represents the country. What is critical, it's the ability for this team to cohere as a single unit to tackle the most challenging difficulties facing our country, which are economic challenges, and of course currently to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, state security is now in the President's office. What are the implications of this?
Well, we appreciate the fact that there's been a consolidation of that sector with regard to the recommendations that were made. You remember that some time earlier, the President announced the chairing, that is, he set up the National Security Council, which he chairs. With that, definitely there has to be a gravitation towards the reconfiguration of that ministry and the manner in which things are happening there. And I think that's a very important step that he has undertaken. However, we've made a caution that over-concentration of an institution of security in the presidency may create an unwarranted or even unexpected consequences, particularly if he may have people that may not tell him what he doesn't want to hear, which is what that department is about. And I think that learning from the past, he could avoid those kind of mistakes. But it's very important that he should be able to have a hands-on approach about what's happening in the country, to receive appropriate interventions so that he can be able to act efficiently and quickly to avoid the crisis that we had in this country recently in July.
Mr. Mapaila, you haven't given us a single criticism of that cabinet reshuffle. I'm sure there are areas that you think might be gleaning where the President could have done better. Are those areas, any areas you'd like to speak of?
I just gave you briefly the issue regarding the security sector. But overall, I think at this point in time, we don't have to look for criticism where it doesn't necessarily exist. It can't be perfect. I mean, there are issues that we think, for instance, could have been communicated differently about the makeup of this cabinet and so forth. But you look at the caliber of individuals, Mondi Gungubele in the presidency, a very good measured comrade, several others. I think overall he has done well. Let's look and see how these people will tackle the challenges that they face. The separation of water and sanitation from human settlement, it's also quite good, and he gave a good explanation in public. So we are happy with that. So we will now say the test is in the pudding when they begin to implement, and we want to urge them to act as fast as they can. The pace of development in our country has such a huge deficit. It requires a cabinet that is quite active on the ground, linking up with the communities and implementing with speed the challenges that we face, the programs to overcome the challenges that we face.
Now, final thoughts, Mr. Mapaila. Obviously, there are instances where ministers fail or government fails. Do you have continual conversations with the President, even before situations explode, if you will, for want of a better description?
Yes, of course we do. As you know, that we also have the Monitoring and Evaluation Division within the presidency. That team must be strengthened and continue to work harder to make sure that it's able to expose weaknesses early and attention can be focused on them. And we've also called on our movement to create capacity outside of government to also make sure that ministers, a framework that they've developed working in government are actually assessed continuously. As you know, also the president has got signed a performance agreement with ministers. We are looking forward. In fact, in our consultation, we also raised this point to say this is an issue that all of them must comply with that performance agreement. And we need, in the next round of engagement, to look at the overall performance of ministers from the tools that they have developed to assess them.
Mr. Solly Mapaila, First Secretary of the SACP, confirming that there was some consultative processes that occurred before the President's announcement of the Cabinet reshuffle, and generally the SACP are happy with that.